I had the privilege of being able to go to Maker Central this year, and in preparation, I challenged myself to make a few gifts for several makers I would be spending time with there. The goal was simply to show my gratitude. All three of these makers are uber talented and have earned my deepest respects for their craft and commitment to the community. Caroline from Berlin Prop Shop, Steve from Moonshine Metalworks, and Al from Al's Hack Shack. Let's start with Steve's. My intention was to try and make his mug resemble a proper stein. This isn't derived from anything specific, just that I love the combination of metal and ceramics. I don't have a metal shop, so the solve was to use what I had learned from Brett's mug and glaze it with my metallic silver glaze just on the handle. Always wanting to use new techniques and tools, I used my foot carving tool to make that nice rounded edge on the bottom of this mug. I was going to be flying with these mugs, so I had to make Steve's shorter and stockier than a traditional stein, and didn't really have the time to design a functioning lid, so that just left me with an angular form that kind of resembled a stein. The handle was created by cutting strips and attaching them together at slight angles.
Cool.
And just like usual for the branding, I 3D printed his logo and created a badge for the front. However, for a little extra touch, I asked for him to send his touch mark and added it to the back. I wanted this to be subtle, so I didn't plan on doing any extra color work over it. I would simply let the matte black fall and break over the edges of the stamp. For glazing, Steve randomly mentioned that lime green was his favorite color before Al came along. So I wanted to accent the top lip with a little bit of the lime green that I had. I just dipped that part and brush applied the remaining glazes. When it came to Al's mug, I knew I wanted to make it beer related. One of my favorite projects he had was he hid a can inside of his workbench that he would access to stay hydrated. At first I thought I would make the form a beer can, but then thought I would much rather give him a beer mug, so that's what I sketched up. For his, I wanted to use my new fluting tool along the bottom to really strike home that I was emulating a proper beer mug. I did a basic test mug for Al before I did the final glazing because I wanted to try my hand at bubble glazing. It's really fun and a very messy process, but I didn't use the right glaze and my clay body really didn't allow for the bubbles to come through. I tested on a couple of different pieces to see if I could get a different combo that I would like, but none really hit the mark. What resulted was that glazing Al's was pretty straightforward. However, I still wanted the mess, and I thought about the overspray from when he would spray paint things in his hack shack, like his wall of awesome. So I just went around the entire mug, flicking the glaze onto the bottom to add that touch to it. It's subtle, but if you look close, it is noticeable. Finally, here's the thought behind Caro's mug. I was very deliberate in the creation of this piece. Unlike Al and Steve, I had a pretty clear perception of them after listening to their podcast, Fools with Tools. I did get the opportunity to interview Caro for our Origin Point podcast, which you can listen to. I'll add it in the links below. But I did go back to her for some more direct knowledge to apply to the mug. The biggest question that I had was, what's your favorite beverage? Second biggest, what's your favorite color? I love that her beverage of choice is a Moscow Mule. The vessels that mules are prepared in have a lot of character. The handles are sharp, angular, and thin. The body is round, and juxtaposed to the handle creates a lot of additional character. On top of the look of the Moscow Mule vessel, I had it in mind that I wanted it to feel like the Apollo mission return capsules. Caro's logo features a little space dude, and I thought it would be fun to combine that with the idea of her peeking out of the window of the capsule. The shape and handle were new, but the biggest challenge was the glazing for Caro's. She was pretty specific about the color, and even sent some photos of her favorite pottery pieces that had very textured results with turquoise as the main color. I had already decided to use my dark brown clay body, and she was pleased when I said I would be using it before she'd even requested it. The glazing process required 2 fires for this mug. The first to put down the texture. I used a glaze called Shipwreck to get that. Then for the second fire, I had a really volatile turquoise glaze that doesn't lay well on its own. I applied it over the Shipwreck, and then I refired the pot. Firing vessels more than once can open it up for damage or cracking that might not have been present the first fire, so I was pretty nervous to fire it for a second time. All 3 of these mugs came out of their respective firings just fine, and I was really pleased with the results.
Yeah. That looks cool.
In this project, I was able to test my throwing ability by throwing 3 completely new to me shapes. I built up my handle making techniques for all 3. I used 2 new tools, and I tried bubble glaze. And I even did a multi-firing glaze layering. Whoa. Finally, I was off to Maker Central to hand out these mugs. I really dig the reactions, and I think you will too. I've also included the videos from when I delivered Red's and Steve's banana mug as just little bonuses.
How do I get into this?
Well, I used white tape so you could break it where the tape was.
Gotta keep the bubbles in.
Hey-oh, studio!
It's like Christmas when you open a gift. Wow. Wow. Oh, wow.
It looks just like you.
Excited much? Fucking bananas! Yeah,
That is pretty.
that is freaking awesome. I'm gonna fill it with Guinness now.